In a recent Package Parade video, we covered a package that I created called OverrideAudit for working with and managing your Sublime Text overrides. Today, I am happy to announce that there's a new version, OverrideAudit 2.1, with some exciting new features, or at least I think they're exciting. So let's dive on in and see what's new. Hello, fellow Sublime Text fanatics. ODAT Nerd here. Welcome to this video on Override Audit 2.1. This is an update that I've been working on for some time in the live streams that I do on my alternate channel, and it's finally ready for release. It's exciting times. So let's just say that if you are enjoying these videos and finding them useful or helpful in any way, please use those buttons down below to thumb, subscribe, and share as you deem appropriate. And as always, if you have any questions or comments on the content of this video or any of the videos on the channel, or suggestions for other Sublime Text topics you'd like me to cover in a future video, drop all of that down in the comment section below, or you can also hit me at Twitter at ODATNerd. But let's go ahead and dive on in and see what's new in Override Audit 2.1. The main design goal for Override Audit is to help you work with and manage your Sublime Text overrides. And up to now, that's been focused on helping you work with overrides that already exist. So in version 2.1, I've added the ability to create overrides from directly within Override Audit to make it your one-stop override shop, if you will. Now, of course, there are a variety of ways you can create overrides. We could, for example, use view package file from the command palette to choose a resource. Say, for example, this file right here. Now, this is a read-only file currently because it was opened from a Sublime package file. And all I have to do is save as this file, browse manually to the packages folder. Inside of that, create all of the folders necessary to store this file, save that file into that location, then close the tab and reopen it because it's currently marked as read-only and Sublime won't let me write in it. And boom, I'm ready to override stuff. Works in a pinch, a little bit of a pain in the butt. Also, the most popular way to create an override is to use the package resource viewer package, which when you choose it shows you a list of packages, and we might say we want to override something in the default package and we want to override that same file. And as soon as we hit that, it opens in the background for us, and now we're ready to create our override. And this is great. I've used this for a long time, but one problem that I have with this particular operation is that the package resource viewer also includes this extract package and extract all packages command. And if you choose one of those, you're going to accidentally create either an override for every file in one package or every file in every package, which can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. And that's kind of dangerous, in my opinion, if you don't know what you're doing. More than once, I have accidentally overridden an entire package without realizing it. It's one of the reasons I created Override Audit in the first place. So in Override Audit, there's a new command which is available from here in the command palette under Override Audit, Create Override. It's also available in the Tools menu if you prefer to go that way with under Tools, Override Audit. And when you pick it, we'll see something very similar to what we just saw. We get to choose the package that we want, and we get to choose the file. And this is hierarchical, the same as it is in Package Resource Viewer. And as soon as we hit it, the buffer opens and we're ready to edit the file. Now, much like Package Resource Viewer, if you do this, the override isn't actually created until you save for the first time. So you're free to close this with impunity, but otherwise it operates the same as Package Resource Viewer's command would do. Now, there's also other ways to execute this same command as well. If we were to look at, say, for example, an override report, there's a new context menu item available on packages called Create Override, and that's going to automatically populate with the name of the package you right-click on. So now it works the same as it did before, but I don't have to browse to the package because I've already got that information loaded. And if you were to decide that you don't want to use the hierarchical browsing, you can also use view package file to do the same thing. And once you're looking at one of these commands, from here in the command palette, you can use override current resource, or you can right click within the file and choose the override audit override this resource command. And when you do that, the buffer turns into an override, the same as if you would have done it with the other command, allowing you to make edits and save. And as in those other cases, if you don't save the file and you just close the tab, no override is created. Of course, one of the main features of Override Audit is being able to see how your overrides are different from the underlying file. And there's a few ways to do that. You can diff entire packages, or as we're going to do here, you can diff a single override and see. And it shows you the standard unified diff that shows you what lines are different with some lines of context. And of course, if I wanted to edit this file, I could easily jump to it, but I have to use that location information in the diff or searches to find this information. And we can also open diffs in an external tool if we want to see that as well. But Sublime Text 3.2 included a new feature called Incremental Diff that shows indications in the gutter where lines in the file have been added, deleted, or modified. So Override Audit now supports that. And by using the internal functionality in Sublime, I can easily jump to the changes in the file and navigate between them. And you can also, of course, toggle the inline diff to see exactly what changes were made, even on a change by change basis, if you'd like to do that. And perhaps we might decide that we only want to see extended time information for builds that succeeded and not for builds that failed. So I can use internal functionality to quickly revert that change and save. This functionality is controlled by a new setting in Override Audit called Mini Diff Underlying. It defaults to being turned on, but you can turn it off if you're working with a package that's tracked by Git and you want to see package changes based on what they look like in Git, or if you just rather see what the changes to the file look like based on when you opened it instead. Override Audit helps you work with your Sublime Text package overrides. And a package override is a package resource that appears both in the Sublime package version of a package as well as in the unpacked version of a package. And Sublime will load the unpacked version always. Sometimes while you're making a modification to a package, you might want to add additional files to that package, perhaps to augment changes that you have been making, or perhaps you have overridden a package resource and the underlying package has been updated and now that package file that you overrode has been removed or potentially renamed to be something else, and you have a dangling override, if you will. So in the new version of Override Audit, there is detection for that and what we're calling unknown overrides. And to see that, we're going to go ahead and look in an override report like so. And we can see here in my default package, there's a file here called olderpastecommand.py that has a question mark in front of it. And that's Override Audit's way of telling me that this package file exists in the unpacked package folder, but it doesn't exist in the shipped version of the package. So maybe this file is supposed to be here and maybe it's not, but you might want to take a look at that. So this can be handy, as I said, in the case where you've overridden a resource and the package has updated itself and now this file may be redundant. It may be re-including functionality that the package author meant to remove or otherwise cause a problem. Or if you're working on helping someone with an existing package, you might be using Override Audit to track your changes, including file additions, and you want to be reminded then there are extra files that otherwise you wouldn't know about. So those will show up here. And these appear not only in the override report, but also over here in the bulk diff report as well. Though as we can see, because there's nothing for them to diff against, you don't see any actual diff there, but they do still appear in here because, again, if you're going over the changes in the package, you might want to be reminded that there's unassociated files with the package that you might want to take a look at. This functionality is controlled by a new setting in Override Audit called Ignore Unknown Overrides. As we can see here, it defaults to being turned on. You can use that setting to turn it off, and you can also use it to filter the list of unknown overrides that you see within packages. For example, the default setting for this filters away the control files used by Git, Mercurial, and Subversion. So if you have a unpacked version of a package that is controlled by one of those source control systems, your reports won't be filled up with a bunch of extraneous information that you don't care about. Sometimes when you're working with an override, say for example, this override I have on the paste from history command that ships directly with Sublime, you may decide that you don't want your override anymore. And of course, one of the features of Override Audit is the ability to delete and override if you would like to. And that's going to just take that file and drop it right into the old recycle bin or trash or what have you on your operating system, depending on how that works, which makes Sublime go back to using the Sublime package version of the file. That may require you to stop and restart Sublime, which might be suboptimal in some cases. And sometimes you might want to keep the override in place, but just refresh the text of that package file back to what it originally was. For example, if you decide your override was going in the wrong direction and you want to put things back the way they were. So there's a new command here called revert current override instead. And what this is going to do, as we see here, is going to take the content of this override and replace it wholesale with the underlying package file. Now, this is a destructive operation. Unlike the delete that puts the old file in the trash, the content of this file will just be gone. So you don't want to do this unless you're absolutely sure you don't want this content. Say, for example, if you've backed it up somewhere, or maybe your package is backed by Git and you're just temporarily reverting some of the package resources to a previous version from within Sublime without having to drop out to Git and selectively find a particular commit or some sort. So I'm going to go ahead and choose yes on this, and we can see that content has refreshed, and there's no more mini diff action for in the gutter for me to jump to, because as far as this is concerned, there's no differences here. And in fact, if I open the diff for this file, there are no differences found. The last feature we're going to cover here is a new hover pop-up that will appear if you hover the mouse over the name of any package in any of the reports that OverrideAudit can generate for you. And the information that appears in here varies depending on the underlying package and what report you're doing this in. You get to see the name of the package, its version, its description, and if there's a link associated with that, that will appear here. You can click that to open it in your browser if you like. And there's also commands down here. In this particular package, there aren't any overrides currently, but we could create one if we wanted to. Up here in the default package, this package may contain overrides. So if we want to, we can jump to the override report to see what they are. We can create a new override, or we can view the existing differences. And if we were to jump down here and say package dev, for example, if we were to hover over this, we get additional information because package dev is a package that installs dependency libraries that it uses. So the information for packages that do that also shows you the dependency libraries that those packages are depending on. And these are links, so we could, for example, click on one, and that's going to show us the hover pop-up for that particular dependency, which will give you an indication as to what packages are currently depending on that, which, as we can see here, is currently just package dev for this one. Of course, if we were to scroll down, we could get the same action by hovering over any particular item we want. We get that same information like so. And this will also tell us when a package is currently disabled as well. Now, over here in the override report, the information in the pop-up is a little bit more detailed, and this is also true of diff reports. Because a package report is meant to be an overall, it just scans to find packages and know how they're installed. So it can tell you if a package does or doesn't probably contain overrides, but it can't tell you for sure. But over in these other reports, the information is more detailed and will tell you that there are how many overrides are currently in here. It'll tell you how many unpacked resources are not present in the source package, that those unknown overrides we discussed previously. Of course, we have the same commands in here. And if there are any expired overrides, those will appear in here as well. So this is still a little bit of a work in progress, still working on what information should appear in here, how it should be presented. So expect more in developing as this feature goes forward. But I'm pretty excited about how this is working thus far. So there we have an overview of the new features in OverrideAudit 2.1. I hope you think they're as interesting and exciting as I do and make the package a little bit easier to use. I'm always looking to enhance the package, so look forward to more features in the future. And if you use OverrideAudit and you're finding any bugs, there's a link to the official issue tracker down in the description of the video where you can log issues or feature requests and enhancements. In fact, some of the features in this particular version of OverrideAudit were the result of feature requests by users on the Sublime Text forum. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful or useful, use those buttons down below to subscribe and share as you deem appropriate. And if you have any questions or comments on the content of this video or any of the videos on the channel, or suggestions for other Sublime Text topics you'd like me to cover, you can drop those down in the comment section below or hit me on Twitter at OdatNerd. But until the next video, this is OdatNerd asking you to please have a sublime day.